Hello guys, welcome to my first video. Today we're going to discuss the situation in Ukraine. We're going to start with the south part and then we go further to the north part. So, we're going to discuss above all the situation and the projection that we can make with the information that we have now. Today is the 28th of November, and we'll try to make some speculation. We're trying to make some projection. Above all, we're trying to think about what could be the turning point of this war. So we're going to discuss what can Ukrainians do to make as much damage as possible to the Russian with their conditions, with their armament, with their equipment, and the same we're going to do with the Russians. So we're going to discuss what can Russia do to make as much damage as possible to the Ukrainians. Today is gonna be a long video, but it will be full of information, full of data. Of course, we can talk about something that we do not know, and I'm referring to the information that only high-ranked generals have in this war, of both sides, the Russian generals and the Ukrainian generals. We do not have all the information, but we'll try to make some projection and everything else. So we're going to start with the south part. As I said, this is the Kherson region. Russian added this region to their federation 2 or 3 months ago, and we saw that only after 2 months the Russian retreated from this side of Kherson region, and they lost the city of Kherson. Of course, this was a big media victory for Ukraine. But we have to be realistic and to analyze this situation from an objective and military perspective. First of all, this happened for two main reasons. Russian had very difficult problems to supply and support this area of Kherson region, because if you want to maintain a big army, the Russian Federation said that from this side to this side, basically 30,000 soldiers left, and with 5,000 of military equipment. So it means that this was a big army, okay, in this area. And if you want to support this big army, you need every bridge that are locating above this river, okay. Most of all, the bridge that's called Antonovsky Bridge, and this bridge was damaged by the Ukrainian shellings with HIMARS systems, and the Russian tried to replace this bridge with some pontoons, but of course a pontoon's bridge cannot replace a real one. So if you want, also you have to see that the formation of Russians were composed by high professional division, like airborne groups, airborne regiment, air assault regiment, and for example, yes, air assault division, Spetsnaz. So it means that those were very high important troops, very offensive, and they were posed in a defensive way here, okay. So if you want to maintain this military, you need a good supply chain, okay. It's like a body. If you don't have veins with blood that took blood to the every part of your body, you will die, okay. So the same is with an army. The second reason that the Russian had to make this difficult choice for them is that the Ukrainian took a lot of groups, a lot of brigades with different types of groups. Let's see what are the formations. We're going to see that they are motorized brigade, separate assault battalion either. This is marine infantry. This is Jaeger infantry brigade. This was a defense brigade. This is a mechanized brigade. This is a volunteer army. So every kind of a lot of types of brigades. So it was just a mix of army, and the Ukrainian took everything that they has on this area, from Mykolaiv, from all along this area, Kryvyi Rog, and they put and mass it on the contact line. Okay, I'm talking when there was the front line here. So to make, just for one reason, to make as much pressure as they could to this area, because they knew that Russian could not stand with the supply chain. So they wanted to make them to leave this area. So they had to push as much pressure as they can to make them leave as fast as possible. Okay. So if you as we analyze this formation, we can think about one thing, that the Ukrainian has basically, they took everything that they had. So it means that what we are seeing here, just what they have in this side of the river, because they take every kind of brigade, everything they had. If you look at the Russian, we see that Russian has only the major the army that the army was composed here by the majority of air assault division, so very attack type of army. But the Ukrainian gets everything that they had, every kind of brigades. So it means that they had that what we are seeing here is just all they has here, and they need to replace to move those forces to other parts of Ukraine. Someone speculated that Ukraine will attack from this side of Kherson region to make a bridgehead here and go further. I don't think this is possible, but someone used as proof that the Russians are building trenches here and even to Crimea, north of Crimea. This is happening for another reason for me, not because the Russian fears an attack from the left side, but because they are feeling something else, and we will discuss, of course, about this. So let's go further. Let's talking about this offensive here. I don't think this offensive from the Ukrainian side is very realistic in this part. First of all, because yes, they can make some offensive. They tried to do something, but they were stopped in this part. First of all, because look at here. If we are going to see, if you see the distance between this part and this, basically this this peninsula, we are seeing that it's only about 6 kilometers, okay, the distance, and it's easily to travel with a boat, okay. But you can took from this side to this side only infantry brigades, only infantry troops, and the small quantities. You have to use a lot of boats to transport a lot of troops from this side to this side, and of course it's easy to for the Russian to see those movements with drones and to attack those boats. In second part, of course, you have this sea roads. I don't know how to say it, but if you want to for real make a very an attack, a bridgehead till here, you need also, yes, you have the support of your artillery, but as the same as the Russians, okay. So if you want to make an attack from here to here, you need also some place where to hide your equipment, where to hide your infantry, because if you want to transport either the some, for example, tanks, some heavy machine, you need to hide those machines and to collect those machines in some area. But if you see at the disposition of those little villages, look here, there are just few houses, few buildings where you can hide your equipment. So it's very unlikely they can collect a big amount of forces. So if they want to, they can try to make an attack, but this attack will be very weak. They can they can control this area with some infantry groups, but something very low. This is why I think that the Russians and the Ukrainian will turn their focus point to this part. Of course, they cannot travel these rivers. Of course, the travel point will be something like here in Zaporizhia region. Someone is saying why aren't the Russian destroying those bridges here in Zaporizhia here in the Dnipropetrovsk, basically all along the Dnipro River side, from the Dnipropetrovsk to Zaporizhia, because from this part to this part they are supplying basically all the Donbass. They can redeploy their forces. I think that this is not happening. First of all, because yes, okay, Russians are attacking the energy facilities of Ukrainians, and these are slowing the redeployment process that Ukrainians are doing. Of course, they cannot move all these troops very fast. For the first reason is because those are a lot of troops, and the second one is because they have a lot of shutdowns of and blackouts of electricity. So the supply system is very slow. The second part of what I want to talk to you is because Russian they want to keep those bridges alive. Okay, they need these bridges, and maybe someone is wondering why. Because I don't know if you see it, but there was a news about Russian soldiers that he, maybe for joke, wrote something on a wall on a house of Kherson region. He basically leaves some instructions for Ukrainians that come in the city, and basically the message was that the Russian were just leaving for some holidays. This part of the Kherson region, and they will be back. He did not specify when, but he said that they will back. We can take this as a joke, as something that want to make fear to Ukrainians, but this maybe have some realistic perspective. First of all, because yes, Russian just annexed this region to Ukraine, to Russia Federation, and they cannot give this region back to Ukraine. This is basically a nonsense. And the second reason is because yes, Russia is keeping alive those bridges just because they want maybe to come back to Ukraine, to this part of Ukraine, this part of Kherson region. And if we see what the Red Army did in the Second World War, basically the Red Army made an attack to conquer Kharkiv and Mykolaiv and Odessa from the north, from Kryvyi Rih, this city. So this make me think that the Russian will want to keep alive those bridges, and they will cut the supplies. Okay, if maybe you're wondering, but yes, this is maybe a good reason, but there is one also there is also something bad. There is a malus, okay, on this situation, because yes, if you keep alive the bridges, you let the Ukrainians supplying those forces, okay, in Donbass. But first of all, you know that as I said before, this supply process is very slowed by the attack of energy facility. And a second reason is that in this part there will be the turning point of this war, not in the north part. Yes, the north part will contribute to this this turning point, but the main turning point will be here in Zaporizhia region. I will tell you how the Russian want to use this, how they should use this this region to make a very big attack and to basically destroy all those forces here. They will achieve the same success of destroying the bridge without destroying those bridges. Okay, so the first part is to taking down to slow the supplies facility and the redeployment of the forces, and the second part is to cut the supplies by an attack. Someone but can wonder why if the Russians will attack Zaporizhia, of course the Ukrainian will destroy the bridges, but this will be a very critical situation and a very critical decision for Ukrainian army. If they destroy those bridges, first of all, those forces should only retreat to the north part, okay? And the second thing is that if they destroy those bridges, they will never be able to come back to help the east part of Ukraine. If those destroy those bridges, basically all this part will collapse, and the Russians will be very able to make a very big attack on those army groups. So every both sides for now, for both sides for now is good. It's better to keep those bridges alive, either for Ukrainian, either for Russians. So I said that in Zaporizhia region there will be a turning point. If you see as we saw before, the typology of the troops in that Russian deployed here in Kherson region were basically all attack type of troops, and they were put in the months before they were put in a defensive position. Okay, here with bad supplies. Now if they had a nice supplies on this section, they also build some trenches. They build also some and they accumulate maybe Melitopol, maybe in Tokmak, out of ammunition, the ports, everything that those army needs to be fed, to be supplied. So the Russian, of course, will redeploy those forces here in the nearest part of the front line that is active in Zaporizhia, and the same the Ukrainian tried to do, and they are deploying a lot of troops here. Let's see the disposition. Those first, this map don't show me the exact number of troops. We don't know what kind of troops are in the north, but either in Kharkiv, but we have some informations, and we try to use those little informations. Mechanized brigade, operational regiment, defense, and defense. So a kind of defensive position, but I know that Ukrainian were able in some way to deploy some forces from this area here. So there are also other brigade that we do not know. In this map there aren't showed. So the Russian will deploy all these forces, and the Ukrainians, of course, trying to attack Energadar facility, Energadar nuclear power plant, or either to make in some way to stop the energy facilities of this region, to make so they can do the same work as the Russians. So Russians are slowing the redeployment process of Ukraine by destroying their power facilities, and the same maybe that the Ukrainians try to do, because of course those troops will be redeployed faster than those troops. So what is the plan of this region? First of all, let's see that in all these regions, all this path from Kharkiv region to Donbass, with Luhansk and Donetsk, the Russians are building a lot of trenches. Of course, in Donetsk, the defense line were built years before. The same in Luhansk, but in this part of Luhansk maybe not. So the Russians are building here, and also in Belgorod region. This part, okay, they are building a lot of trenches in the borders, near the borders. This means that the Russians are going to be, or they want to make a second line, a second defensive line, just to be safe, or I think that they are making defensive line here. The most important defensive line are building here, because here were built already. This is just the weakest part of this front line, okay, from Belgorod to Donetsk, in the Donbass and Donetsk region. From here to here, the most weakest part is here, okay. This part there are a lot of trenches, built with very heavy trenches, and for me those trenches are built just to first of all to make a defensive posture for the Russian army. They are in a posture, the defensive posture, because they want to collect as much soldiers as they can, as many soldiers as they can. Okay, so if when an army attack, of course you need the superiority of troops, but if you defend, you need less troops than while you are attacking. So they need a lot of troops to redeploy those troops elsewhere. I think that a lot of troops from Luhansk and Belgorod will deploy in the north, and some troops either from the south part of Lugansk and Donetsk will deploy to the north, to the south of the conflict in the Zaporizhia region here. and of course also the other volunteers, mobilized guys, because we know that a lot of mobilized were trained here in Donbass, so they are basically very near to the contact line. As I said, the Russians are collecting a lot of people and they want to make an attack here. The same are doing the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians have three possibilities. One, maybe they want to make an attack here in Belgorod, so this is the reason that Russian made the second reason why the Russians are making a defensive line here and here. And the second, as I said, the second weakest spot, the most weakest spot in this area is basically here in the Svatova region. So this is why the Ukrainians are pushing a lot of army here. And either I'm seeing in these days that the Ukrainians are collecting a lot of forces here in Kharkiv, but they're maybe not collecting only to attack, but also to prevent something else. And I will discuss what else. So the Ukrainians want to put a lot of forces here to make an attack, to arrive, for me at least, till they want to arrive at least okay, let me show. Okay, at least to Melitopol. Their goals are this. First of all, Melitopol and Berdyansk. Okay, they want to attack they want to achieve something like this, maybe just a bit further to those peninsulas here and here. Mariupol is just yes, it's an important junction, but maybe it will be a secondary goal. The first goal, it will be to take Melitopol and Berdyansk, because if you take Melitopol and Berdyansk, you are taking one. First of all, the Melitopol is the most important junction in this part, and the second thing is that Berdyansk basically is very near to this supply road. Okay, so if you take Berdyansk, basically you also take this. Okay, in this way, the Ukrainians could put some artillery fire. The distance is very high, so they cannot make basically an artillery fire, a direct artillery fire to the Crimea bridge. But I think that if the Ukrainians show to the West that they can make this attack, the West will supply the Ukrainians with some missile that has a reach longer than 140 kilometers. Okay, maybe 150 kilometers. I saw just today that the Boeing want to make they want to build some missile rockets to supply the Ukrainians with a range of more than 150 kilometers. This maybe is the purpose, the goal. Okay, or either they can do something that like they did to the Snake Island. Basically, the Ukrainians put some boats and some with some artillery systems, and they attack this little island. Maybe they want to do the same here. I don't know if they could do something like this, but maybe, well, they could try, but I think, I don't know, it will be very hard for them. It's more likely that they will use long-range weapon systems. Maybe they will use maybe also the maybe Air Force with drones, maybe, or something like jets, or maybe they had already some HIMARS, that system that have a range of that is above the 70 kilometers that the US told. So if they do this, they attack this this bridge, they will achieve a big success. First of all, because they will cut off from supplies the Crimea from the east part of Russia Federation. If they do this, they will cut this supply road here from here, and basically not only the Crimea, but also, if you look, also this part will be isolated. And if this part is isolated, basically the Ukrainian can put some pressure here. They could not pass from this side of the river to this side, but they could put some pressure either, and they will try to make maybe some lands from here to here. And secondary, they will also try to do this. Okay, they will try to attack in this direction to take Energadar. If they take Energadar, they will cut off from supply for power supply, energy supply, this area, of course. This is very important, and this allowed the Ukrainians to establish maybe some boats, some basically a bridgehead here, so they make maybe send some boats here, here, and they can accumulate some forces here if they take Energadar. Energadar was used from Russian side to accumulate some a lot of troops, and the same can do the Ukrainians. So they will establish some pressure either here, and they could put a lot some troops in this part, and they can advance, okay, in this part. So this is why the Russians are building those famous trenches, either here and either in this line. They are building very I don't know how many layers of trenches, but I think at least 2 or 3. And this is why they are building either the trenches in this part, just in case they need to evacuate this zone. Also, the Russians cannot leave Novakhovka because there is this. If you see in this blue, this is a water supply for Crimea. So I don't know if you know, but Crimea has had a problem with water. So when the Russian captured Novakhovka, basically they activated this the water supplies to Crimea, because before the water was pumped in Ukraine with if I'm not wrong, with a lot of trucks and something like this. Let me clear this this map. So this is the intention of Ukraine. Of course, they can attack either to they want to take this, something like this. Where is Melitopol? Okay, Melitopol. Of course, they want to make something like this, and if they're able to do this, maybe something like this. If they are able to do something like this, they will cut. They will isolate this. Russian can also supply Crimea if the bridge is broken, but they will be in very big dangerous. As we saw before, Ukrainians put a lot of drones. Basically, there was underwater drones, and to supply Crimea with ships, it will be very expensive for Russians. Okay, so if you want to supply Crimea with bridges, with ships, it would be very dangerous. And of course, you want to maybe to put 10 tanks from here to here. You put those tanks in the bridge, in the boat. You have to load the boat with tanks, and then you have to go to the port, and then from the port you have to put on the ground the tanks, and then the tanks will go to this will go to this peninsula, to this yes, kind of peninsula. But this is very long process, so it's much more effective to put those tanks on a train, and then to let the train go till the destination. It will be it's much more easier to do this, of course. And this is the projection for me for the Ukrainians. They also plan maybe to attack Belgorod. I don't know. I'm not sure that they can do this, because of course Belgorod is a region of Russian Federation that were established before the 24th of February, and it could be a very big red line, as Crimea it is in itself. So once you are attacking the region that were already compromised of Russian Federation after the annexion, yes, basically the Ukrainians attacked, for example, Liman. Liman was annexed to the Russian Federation as part of, if I'm not wrong, Luhansk or Donetsk, I don't remember. They attack Liman, but Russians do not do something very significant, okay, for this aggression. So it means that, of course, they are treating those regions with some. They are treating differently those regions, okay, because their situation their situation were very unique, so they can't just do a total mobilization for this attack. But if the Ukrainians are trying to attack Belgorod with troops and making for real dangerous, I don't say maybe Belgorod itself, because it's a very big city. I don't think that the Ukrainians has a lot of capacity to do this. Either because there will be a lot of trenches here, but maybe they will try to attack maybe this town here, Shebeklio, this town here, and just to take some supply junction to the Russian, or maybe they try to either attack Belgorod, because encircle Belgorod. I don't think they could do this, but maybe if they will be posed in a dangerous situation, they will try to do something. The only thing that they can do is to attack, of course. And why I'm saying that the Ukrainian will be posed in a difficult situation. Let me finish the Ukrainian situation, and then I will explain this to you. If the Ukrainians are able to do this, they can think about attacking Mariupol. If they attack Mariupol, basically this part of front line from here to here will be will be cut from part of supply. Of course, they will have some supply from Donetsk, but it will be a bit difficult for them. So this is my projection for the Ukrainians, of course, and they can try to attack either the north part of Luhansk and Kharkiv region. Of course, as we see, the main goal is to take Svatova, and then go further to Starobilsk. Then to go for Starobilsk, and then to basically cut all these people, all of those people from supply. If you take this section, basically the Russian could supply, Luhansk, that is Lysychansk, only by this city, and the south. And the Russian can send their supply only by those towns, by this part of Russia. So if they had a lot of military facilities here, they have to make a very long travel to make the supplies arrive here, there. So if their second goal is to take this city, and then maybe to encircle this chance in some way, maybe this is more tactical maybe question to talk about, and maybe I will tell about this later in other videos. And if they're able to do this, basically they can also make some encirclement. They can attack here, they can go just to the south, but I don't think that Ukrainians have the real possibilities to put in danger some city like Luhansk, some city like Donetsk. They can make just damage to the Russians. Their manpower maybe is not enough for the moment to put such a big attack here. Either because they need much more military equipment, from the west countries. Of course, there are a lot of contractors in Ukraine that work for the Ukrainian army. A lot of them are Western guys. Maybe someone. I think that someone is from NATO, but of course, it's just something very. You can speculate about this. You cannot be sure 100%, but we know that this is very, very, very possible. So this is the Ukrainian perspective, and let's go to the Russian side. Of course, we talk about the Russian side, and we talk about the question of supply. Supply is like the blood on your body. You need the blood to survive. Without blood, you cannot survive. And any part of your code can't survive without blood. So the main goal of Russian in this section, first of all, because they had, as I said, a lot of attack groups, It will be, first of all, if the Ukrainians are think to make an attack, the Russians have to absorb it, to absorb the momentum of the attack, and then to make a counter-attack on the flanks. Maybe they will use they will use this bridgehead here to go further. But if they're able to absorb this attack, because I think that they will let the Ukrainians do the first move, maybe just to make sure that they can absorb the attack, and in this way they can absorb the attack, and they can make a counter attack on the flanks, and first of all, because it's much more easier to defend than to attack. If you'll be able to defend here where the logistic is fully operating, you will be able to defend in a very efficient way, and then while the Ukrainians lose the momentum, you can attack. Of course, the Ukrainians need to do this very fast, because the time is running. The mobilization is about to be completed, and the Ukrainians need to do as much damage as possible now, because in the next year, of course, the Russian army, as the Institute of War is saying, the Russian is collecting more than half a million of army. So for me, the Ukrainian will be the first, but to attack this, to make an attack in this part, and the Russian will attack from the flanks. First of all, they need to make 2-3 bridgehead, and the main, if we see, they will going to take this road. Maybe from here. They do not need to take Zaporizhia. They need just to maybe make a kind of encirclement of Zaporizhia. Of course, Zaporizhia will survive because it's not a real encirclement, but just to pass near Zaporizhia and then go further to the north. Okay. The main goal of this operation will be Pavlovgrad. Maybe they can do, maybe they can do something like this. Okay, it's not out of it's not very, yes, it's a bit of kilometers, a very nice attack. They will have to take a lot of territory, but they could do this if they of course let the Ukrainians attack first. They will basically reduce a lot of Ukrainian troops with the defensive posture, and then they will attack. And this could be the possible goal for me, the most reasonable goal of Russians. Sorry, if they do this, look, they probably will start with attacking Pokrovsky. If they attack Pokrovsky, they will cut first of all this line of supply of this side of New York agglomeration. If they take off Pokrovsky, of course this agglomeration will have this important junction and this rail junction that will supply them. But if they take Pavlovgrad, first of all Pokrovsky, and then they will go further with this the right side of attack. They will take Pavlovka. They have to take Pavlovka to not only isolate the Zaporizhia, all the Zaporizhia roads from the east part, but also to take Pavlovgrad will isolate also the Dnipropetrovsk to the east part. So without those, look at this, without this line, basically look at this line basically took the supplies to all this part. The second line will be here from Kharkiv. So how to take out this line without taking Kharkiv? For me, the attack that we are speculating about to the north will be the main important bridgehead should be made on Sumy. Sumy is very important because this is the bridgehead that will let you to go to the main important goal of Ukraine. The Russian need to take the second turning point of this war. That is, the second is Pavlograd, and third point with Sumy in the attack of north. The most important city is Poltava. Poltava is the most important city if you take Sum. If you do like something like this, okay, of course you need to this is just a perspective. Maybe you need to do something maybe like this. You need to take other cities maybe like this, but this is just an idea, okay? I'm drawing this. I could talk about this in other videos, but this will be this is the idea, okay? Once you take Pavlograd and Poltava, then the last step is to attack here. If you do this, or you can attack here, or you can attack from Pavlograd to Hubianka, and in this section, okay, Hubianka, in this section, okay, you can attack this. If you do this from here, or maybe from here, it depends. Maybe you can do this from here. You will be able to basically encircle all the Donbass troops. Everything in Donbass will be encircled. They will have no supply road that can fed all these troops, as the Ukrainians did here. To feed such a big army, we need to know that we need to think that in this part of Ukraine, there are the most there is the majority of the professional army of Ukraine. Okay, in this part, if you destroy this army, basically Ukrainian left without professional army. Okay, maybe 60-70% of their professional army is here. Okay, it's the main part of their army. So this is the projection of Russians. I think that they can do this. They can do this because, first of all, here in Sum, and from Sum and this part of north of Ukraine, there is the weakest spot of Ukraine. Okay, Ukrainian army. First of all, because here in the north, someone is speculating that the Russian will attack from the north here, just to take out the supplies from the west. Okay, they can do this, but this attack, we're going to discuss this attack further. But this attack, in this part of Ukraine, the Ukrainians are collecting a lot of trenches. They are making a lot of defensive positions. And the second one is from Kiev. Okay, if you take out Kiev, you will take basically as the most important city to supply. But yes, of course, the Russians will do an attack on Kiev, and I will explain you why. Kiev is very well defensed, so if you want to take Kiev, you need a lot of troops, and also in Kiev the Ukrainians are making a lot of trenches and a lot of fortified positions. And the weakest spot, of course, in Ukraine is here, because here there are a lot of mobilized troops, so guys of territorial defenses, territorial defense. They do not have a lot of experience. They basically are conscripts, and of course they cannot stand with a professional army or someone that is mobilized and had experience before. And most of all, because here the Russian will accumulate a lot of troops, so they will outnumber the Ukrainian army in this position. So maybe Kiev and this north part of Ukraine is very it's much more easier to defend. Okay, but this part is not very easy to defend. The Ukrainians are collecting all of their troops here in Kharkiv, because maybe they it's not only the attack they can make here, but also because they look at this, they can support the defense in this part. This is for me the most reasonable thing, that they are doing this. They are collecting here in Kharkiv a lot of troops because they want to make those troops in a defensive position to stop those attacks here from Sumy region. Of course, the Sum is the most near the biggest town, the most near of the biggest town here in Kharkiv. So they will try to send a lot of defensive troops from Kharkiv to Sum, because they will fear this attack. Of course, they will do this when they will see that the Russian are going to start this attack. Of course, you have to think that in Kharkiv they're collecting a lot of troops either from this side. Okay, if they are collecting troops, they will make it weak the attack of this side. I think that the Ukrainian will not continue further to this attack, because basically this attack do not conduct to anything significant. Okay, you take out the supply to Lysychansk, a part of supply to Lysychansk, but Lysychansk could survive either with the south part. South part will supply Lysychansk, so it do not make a lot. So this is why we are seeing in those days that the Russians are attacking back the Ukrainians, and this is why the Ukrainians are taking some troops from this front line and back to Kharkiv, and then they will took those troops and they'll put those troops here in those part of Ukraine. This will be very, very important. And you know that Russia will make is preparing other attacks on the Ukrainian facilities, so they will slow another time. They will slow even more the redeployment of those Kharkiv troops on the north part. This redeployment will be basically very slowed by those attacks. So this is a matter of time. Who will be the fastest to do this? Okay, so who will be the fastest to do this will be the one who will basically take this advantage. If you see, if Russian will able to do this and this without that Ukrainians can respond, of course there will be a big battle for Sumy and for those towns in the middle. Basically, the Russian has an advantage of deployment. They had an advantage of the numbers, but nothing is. We do not know how it will end. There is no certain certain points of how it will end this situation. Of course, the second attack of Russian, so here and here. And the last attack of Russian, I think that will be done here in Kiev. The second time, of course, to take Kiev, you need to isolate Kiev, and you have to pass here, then to Korosnen, and then to go to Zimturm. This, or at least if you want to do this, something like this. Okay, let me see, something like this. Or at least you need to take if you don't want to take this town because it's kind of big. Yeah, it's kind of a bit it's not a very little town. You have to go maybe to pass from this side. Okay, something like this. To take Iperkios, you need to take some towns because if you want to attack make an attack, you need to have some points where you can concentrate your troops, when you can conserve your and collect your equipments. So if you want to make an attack, you need to take some hubs, some supply hubs. It's like if you take a town, you can put your troops here, you can accumulate your troops here, and then you can go further. It's like you make a step and then you make it's like you make a step and you take a pause and to collect your troops, and then go further to the next step, to the next hub, to the next point. Okay, it's like a point. You go and point. If the point is bigger, the most of troops you can collect. So this is the most important city here. You can count a lot. You can put a lot of troops here, but it's very difficult to take this town. Of course, if you see the Ukraine would have all of their troops in this part, and all of these troops do not have a lot of experience, because a lot of troops that defend Kiev are now in Donbass. So those troops will be kind of weak for the Russians. So maybe the Russians will have a lot of possibility to take, will have much more possibility to take this town. But if they could not take this town, because it will be maybe it will be very hard to take this town. Maybe it will be very well defensed, or it will be not convenient because they want to limit their losses. they will attack maybe in this direction here, like this. The most important thing that they had to do is to take out of supply Kiev from the west part first of all. So you can do something like this. Okay, something like this. You can attack here, or maybe from here attack here, and then go to this part. So if you do something like this, every part of Ukraine Kiev will be isolated from the west. If you have a big town, a big town need a lot of supply roads. If you take out two or three supplied roads out of 4, basically Kiev will be isolated from the left side. The same thing you have to do from the right side. Of course, if you want to do something like this, as you did in the left side, you need to take first of all Chernihiv, like this. If you take Chernihiv, then you can go further to this town here. Okay, and then the steps will be the same steps. You have to take the hub and then to collect troops and then go further. The the problem that Russian had in the first attack is that they do not take the supply hub like Chernihiv. They do not take Chernihiv, they just isolated Chernihiv, but the Ukrainians were still here and the Ukrainians were still defending. So the Russians just were moving without collecting the troops on some hub and some supply junction. So they do not have a stable supply connection. This is why the Ukrainians had a lot of possibility to they had an advantage of on the Russians. The second point, as we see, let's see at the map. If the Russian will do something like this, okay, let's mark this like this, and then let's put something like this. Okay, if they will able to do something like this with their army, then Kiev will be isolated. And why to isolate Kiev? Because if you isolate Zaporizhia, Dnipro, and Kiev, basically the left side of Ukraine will be the right side of Ukraine will be isolated from the left side. If you do this, it's a matter of time that all of these troops will collapse. And you do not need to make an attack from this part if you want isolated the left side to the right side. If you want to isolate the west from the east and to take out the supply from the west countries to Ukraine, you just need to take out Kiev and to take out the supply from Dnipro and Zaporizhia. Okay, it will remain only this Kremchuk, but Kremchuk will be either isolated because and also this town Cherkasky, that will be isolated because look at this. This supply road do not took 20 part. This supply road took to basically only this part, but I will tell you later the last step, the last 2 steps. And yes, it took from some part, but just only to raise some resistance. Of course, there are no significant towns. Of course, Krasnopol, Konotop is the only city here. But then the last 2 steps of Russian will be to take this down here, okay, and to connect those 2 bridgehead. If you do this, just a matter of time that those troops will collapse and they will start to attack and take all of this part slowly, probably, I don't know. They will attack further and further on this section. They will encircle all of these cities that are in the middle of this circle, and basically just a matter of time, as I said, they will collapse without electricity. Of course, if you encircle Kiev is a big town, and if you take out of energy Kiev in winter, this is why the Russian need to move before the spring, Kiev will fall Kiev will fall much more easily in winter than in spring or summer, because of course those guys do not have heat, do not have energy, and the only energy supply that we can find here is based on what Western countries give to Ukraine. For example, some days, yesterday or 2 days ago, basically, US gave to Ukraine 200 generators. I don't remember how many, but of course, if you take out Kiev from any supplies, and if you attack Kiev, okay, if you attack Kiev with some rockets, something like this, they do not have the components to repair those energy facilities, those junctions. And you do not have to attack Kiev. Okay, you can slowly push, but just a matter of time that Kiev will fall by itself. You do not need to invade and to attack directly Kiev. You just only need to encircle it, and everything will be done by the time. As we see, of course, it's a lot of territory, and you need a lot of troops to do this, because the much long is the let us see, those are just to take this part. Okay, just let us see. Let's put something like this. Of course, we do not know if Belarusian will. Okay, this is 622 kilometers of just this front line. Okay, there will be a lot of front lines, so the Russian need a lot of troops to do all this attack. They need at least 300,000 soldiers, or maybe more. I don't know, maybe more, but 300,000 soldiers. Yes, they did this with 200,000 soldiers. But there was basically some kind of surprise attack. Of course, the West and the Ukrainians were prepared for this attack for a very long time. But in the south, I heard that a lot of generals do not believe, of Ukrainian side, do not believe that the Russian will attack the Ukraine for real, and they will not. They do not prepare for this, and this south part will fall very easily. So this is why I think that the Russian will need very much big army, and we do not know if Belarusian will be involved in this attack. Of course, Belarusian can be involved in this attack without being formally involved. I mean that without the Belarusian government say that yes, we are involved, yes, we help the Russians. They can send some contractors, some Belarusian under contracts to take part to the Russian side. Of course, if you count the number of Russians in this operation, we know that the Russians started their attack started the war with at least 200 or more than 200 soldiers, 200,000 soldiers. They maybe have now 150,000 soldiers. If we add this to this amount, 300,000 mobilized, also 100,000 at least volunteers. I know that there are at least 40,000 from 3rd Army Corps that was formed here in the south, that was composed by 40,000 soldiers. There was also 13,000 soldiers that were volunteers when the Putin announced the partial mobilization. There were also a lot of Chechens volunteers. I don't know how many thousand, but I think at least 40,000 there was. And there was also some volunteers from the Wagner group. I mean, some prisoners that took part of the Wagner group when they recruited some prisoners. And there were also the contractors of Russian Federation that the contractors that the Russians basically involved in this war, like Wagner's and other types of basically of PMC, like Wagner. So this is the situation. For me, this is the most realistic perspective that we can see. Of course, this attack will involve a lot of troops, and it will be done in a lot of steps. But the main idea, the main attacks should be done in winter, the Institute Study of War said that at least in next weeks the terrain will be will let the troops to move easily. So when the terrain will be harder without mud, the movement on the front line will be the front will be very active. Okay, so it will be very interesting to see and to follow what will going to be. I think that this part and this part, of course, and either in this part, but most of all this part and this part will be done most intense battle of this campaign. Of course, we're going to see maybe this in then 223 sorry, in 2023, in the next year. Thank you for watching. If you want me to talk about some the next to talk about something more specify in the front line, something more tactical, I will make some video for you. And this was just a strategic perspective, and this is a vision of months, and maybe it took 1 year. I'm just speculating about this, but this is maybe the most realistic and the most important thing that maybe Russian can do to turn this this war. I thank you for the watching, and let me some comments if you want to see something else. Okay, in the next video. Bye bye.